online. News 12's First Alert Traffic Network is sponsored by Mountaineer Pest Services. Protect your home at stopmybugs.com. Watch 1226 on your side, wherever you go. Live from Augusta, you're watching News 12 live at 5.
Well, it's spooky to be hungry, and the times we're living in aren't getting any easier. Just ahead, how our community is teaming up to feed those in need with your help. But first, another beautiful day for us going into the books, especially with a great night of high school football ahead of us. And Riley, folks might even need a light jacket tonight for some of these games.
Yeah, it may not be a bad idea tonight, Will. We are looking at temperatures that around kickoff in the 70s, so it'll be comfortable. But as soon as that sun goes down, we're expecting temperatures to fall off into the 60s pretty quick. So maybe a little bit cool out there for some of us. Definitely not a bad idea to have some sleeves on later tonight. Here's a look down the Savannah River from our Thurman Dam cam. Just gorgeous afternoon. Definitely a great night to get outside. And we do have temperatures right now in the 80s for us. So finally back closer to average this afternoon. 85 officially out of Bushfield. Still hanging on to that northeast wind between 5 to 10 across the region. But about 15 degrees warmer than where we were this time yesterday afternoon. You can see 80s found across most of the two-state. A little bit further west, you can see across portions of the Mid-South. They're actually back into the 90s today. So luckily, we're just staying seasonal. Highs in the 80s for the next 7 days. Finally got some sunshine back out there this afternoon. And generally clear skies for this evening and tonight. Maybe a few high-level clouds passing by at times. But here's a look at our under the lights forecast. So once again, kickoff temps, mid-70s. Will fall up into the 60s towards the second half. Should be a great night out there. And look up around kickoff. We actually do have the full harvest moon rising in the eastern sky just after 7:30 tonight, and it should be shining bright all the way through the weekend. Much more on that weekend forecast in just a bit. But let's get a quick update on your First Alert traffic.
And now, First Alert Traffic.
All right, folks, we are looking at some traffic on I-20, both near the state line. We'll take a live look out here first. So this is the eastbound lane. Just really seeing congested traffic. Hasn't really come to a standstill, but definitely a little bit of some slow-moving conditions there if you are crossing over from Georgia into Carolina. This is a look at our Wheeler Road cam. So this is looking at I-20 between Wheeler Road and Bel Air Road, and you can see this westbound lane. So this is the lane heading towards Atlanta. That is starting to slow down a little bit as well, so maybe a little bit slow conditions there on the west side of Augusta. Have a full look at that weekend forecast for you in just about 10 minutes.
Thanks, Riley. It's spooky to be hungry as Golden Harvest Food and Funds Drive, where mail carriers collect canned goods along with your mail. But as our economy faces a rocky future between rising prices and a looming government shutdown, things are more dire this season. Taylor Martin explains how Golden Harvest Food Bank is reacting.
For the past 31 years, Golden Harvest Food Bank has held their annual It's Spooky to Be Hungry campaign, but this year they're seeing more of a need and they're raising their goal. We need your help. Last year, the campaign exceeded their goal of funding more than 750,000 meals for hungry families across the CSRA. This year, with an increased goal of 1 million meals, they're hoping to exceed the goal again. With a 15% increase in need over the past year, this year's campaign is more important than ever, so they need your help.
And we're just looking forward to having more neighborhoods than ever, more businesses than ever, more schools than ever involved in this food and funds drive. Well, what we need to make this campaign successful is to have our community come behind us.
All new on News 12 at 6 o'clock, we're breaking down the factors that have influenced the increase in need they're seeing and also how you can help out. Reporting in Augusta, Taylor Martin on your side.
Thanks, Taylor. The monthly Connection to Community event took place today in Augusta, also looking to help those in need to get to proper resources. Now, this was a resource fair designed to connect people with services and support needed to improve their lives. This includes several church groups and nonprofits coming together today. They say events like this can help people get to those proper resources, and that could even potentially save people's lives. Well, a wanted Augusta man is dead after a shootout with authorities in Columbia, South Carolina. This happening at a hotel earlier this morning. 78-year-old George Curtis had trial scheduled earlier this month in Richmond County on charges of child rape, aggravated child molestation, aggravated sexual battery, and 2 counts of child molestation. He did not show up, and a bench warrant was issued. Now, this morning, the U.S. Marshal Service Regional Task Force found him at a hotel, and Curtis fired at marshals. 2 deputy marshals were hurt but are expected to survive. Investigators say Curtis died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A manhunt in Charleston is over and the suspect is dead, but not without losses. We're learning that a K-9 officer was killed during the capture of Ernest Burbridge yesterday. An armed and dangerous suspect that shot a deputy on Wednesday. Now, Burbridge killed sled K-9 Rico, who was with the department for just over a year. Officials today honoring K-9 Rico's courage and sacrifice and say the situation would have been a lot worse if he hadn't been there.
It's a tough day for law enforcement, but if it wasn't for Rico, this could have been much, much worse. He definitely saved lives, and we're very, very appreciative.
Officers from several agencies lining up to honor K-9 Rico and his valor at a funeral home last night. The deputy injured is out of the hospital this evening and recovering. A man accused of killing 8 people during a killing spree at Atlanta spa is appearing in court today. This all happening back in 2021. 4 of the 8 killings happened in Woodstock at a spa called Young's Asian Massage. Now, the suspected shooter, Robert Aaron, tells police he was motivated by a sexual addiction that was at odds with his religion, and he decided to target places where he had previously paid for sex. He pled guilty to those murders and is currently serving life in prison, but prosecutors in a separate case are seeking the death penalty under Georgia's hate crimes law. This time, Aaron is pleading not guilty. We will continue following this story and let you know as this case progresses. New technology could help better monitor the health of inmates inside the Fulton County Jail. This year alone, 10 inmates have died inside the jail, and many of their deaths are still under investigation. Now the county has bought 1,000 new wristbands that screens inmates' vital signs. If something is wrong, the wristband sends a digital notification to deputies.
A cardiac event is going on, and we know about it within seconds. There's a very high probability that you can get the individual from there over to medical and do the life-saving over here versus finding it 10 minutes, 15 minutes later when you do your rounds on your self-check. It's going to save lives, and that's what we want.
Right now, only 13 inmates in the mental health unit have wristbands, but they are working to get them to those other inmates. The maker of the wristbands say they're in talks with other Metro Atlanta sheriff's offices about expanding the program to other jails. Dianna Feinstein, the longest-serving woman in the U.S. Senate, has died. The California Democrat was 90 years old. She began serving her state as a senator back in 1992. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle now honoring her legacy and political career. Georgia Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock saying that Feinstein broke barriers, shattering glass ceilings, and he is inspired by her example. Georgia Senator John Ossoff echoing that sentiment and extending his condolences to her family and state. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham calling Feinstein a trailblazer and one of the most consequential senators in history. And South Carolina State Senator Tim Scott saying she leaves behind a lasting legacy of service in the Senate. Well, Korean War veterans' remains are returning to South. If the federal government shuts down, payments for Social Security and benefits for Medicare and Medicaid will still continue. But a shutdown would have far-reaching impacts in other ways, ranging from delayed paychecks for federal workers to the closure of some national parks. Our State House reporter Mary Green explains what it could mean for the more than 500,000 South Carolinians on food assistance.
The White House says money for WIC, supplemental food assistance for women, infant, and children, could run out in a matter of days in many states if the federal government shuts down. But the head of the state agency that oversees this program here told me that would not be the case in South Carolina.
Their benefits should not be changed anytime in the near future. Now, if this runs for months and months, at some point, obviously, that could change. But for now, I think we can reassure everyone that's involved with the WIC program that their benefits will continue.
DHEC Director Dr. Edward Simmer says his agency staff has been preparing for a potential shutdown and should have enough money to carry them at least through October. More than 90,000 South Carolinians rely on WIC benefits. Many more, around 630,000, are enrolled in SNAP, what used to be known as the Food Stamps program. That's under the jurisdiction of the Department of Social Services, whose director says recipients will be covered through the next month if the federal government shuts down.
We've been assured that there will be benefits through October, and we're hoping for some guidance from the federal government if it goes on any longer to figure out what's next after October.
And both state agencies say if a shutdown were to extend past October and affect benefits, then they'd be in touch with beneficiaries and getting the word out to keep them informed on what would come next. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
And DSS reports around 300,000 South Carolina households receive an average of $380 per household last month in SNAP benefits. Well, there is a growing backlog of rape kits across the country, including right here at home. Just ahead, how one South Carolina representative is pushing for accountability. Riley?
Well, it looks like we're going to close out the last weekend of September with seasonal temperatures and luckily staying dry for outdoor plans. We'll have a full look at the forecast just after the break.
Streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back, folks. Here's a live look from our Thurman Dam cam. We actually have this zoomed in at one of the coves near West Dam Park, and just beautiful conditions out there. We got sunny skies, calm winds. We got a guy out there fishing. Hopefully, he has some luck out there. He's going to have some great weather out there over the next couple of hours. Temperature is a little bit warmer today. We're in the mid-80s for most spots, so temperature is close to even more than 10 degrees warmer than where they were this time yesterday. As you head out to those high school football games this evening, by around 7:30, we should be dropping into the mid-70s, and then by halftime into the second half, we should see the 60s out there, so it may not be a bad idea to bring a jacket with you if you are heading out. Wanted to show you this sunset we actually got sent in last night, so this is from Mr. Andy Hunter. How about this? A beautiful look, as we did see just kind of some exiting high-level cloud cover. This was right at sunset yesterday evening, and a beautiful look there over the River Golf Club in North Augusta. If you ever want to send us any of your weather pictures, you can always do that through our app or the website. We love sharing these, and thank you, Andy. Always love seeing those drone shots. Weekend forecast for us here in Augusta, staying warm tomorrow afternoon, most likely mid-80s, down to 82 Sunday, and looking to see a little bit more sunshine Sunday relative to Saturday, but still beautiful weather all weekend long. And we are going to see some comfortable mornings as well, down near 60 early Saturday and Sunday. If you are heading up to the lake temps right now, upper 70s, and they'll likely hover around 77, 79 degrees over the next couple of days. Afternoon highs up at the lake should be close to 80 Saturday and Sunday, and that northeast wind is not changing. It's going to persist all the way through the weekend and even most of next week as well. Here's a look at our weekend forecast across the region. So we do have Georgia away, South Carolina away at Knoxville. Georgia's playing in Auburn. Jackets are actually playing at home in Bobby Dodd. That's going to be a noon kickoff, I believe, for the Jackets. But we also have Georgia Southern. They actually have a night game at Paulson Stadium tomorrow, so they're actually taking on Coastal Carolina, and they're actually going to be showing that game on the NFL Network at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So best of luck to the Eagles. We got a 7 o'clock kickoff for a 7:30 kickoff for Carolina against Tennessee, looking nice up there in Knoxville. And then for the Dogs taking on Auburn, that's going to be a 3:30 kickoff on our network, so you can watch that on CBS WRDW. Warm kickoff there in Auburn. We actually should be in the mid-80s around that time frame. And then as we head into our Saturday evening, game time in Knoxville looking good, upper 70s. Same thing in Statesboro, should be in the upper 70s around then. And staying dry pretty much across the entire southeast through the weekend forecast. Here's a live look over Jordan Hare Stadium. So once again, you will be able to watch the Georgia-Auburn game right here on WRDW. 3:30 kickoff should be a great game, and we're looking at pretty warm temps there in Auburn in the 80s as we do kickoff around 3:30. Here's a look past our weekend forecast. We're staying with lots of sunshine Monday through next Thursday, and seasonal temps waking up near 60 and highs near 80.
Breaking news live at 5. One of former President Donald Trump's 18 co-defendants in the Georgia indictment taking a plea deal. Scott Hall has ties to Columbia County. He's accused of conspiring to unlawfully access voter data and ballot counting machines at the Coffee County Elections Office back in January of 2021. He has pled guilty to 5 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with the performance of election duties. His punishment includes serving a total of 5 years probation and serving 200 hours of community service. South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace pushing for accountability in an effort to address the growing number of untested DNA rape kits across the country. As Meredith Blair explains, victims in South Carolina say they're waiting too long for justice.
It's one of those things that if you haven't been through it, you just don't know.
The nonprofit says the reason for so many untested kits, over 1,000 here in South Carolina, is due to an increase in reported sexual assaults.
Getting these through the process, what we've needed to help this backlog is funding, is training, and is help for and more centers for testing.
The goal of this act is to bring transparency and accountability to what Mason 24 co-sponsors believe is a critical issue.
The survivor who had the rape kit test cannot seek justice because they have to formally go through testing, get the DNA from the test, and more are just being piled up.
They explain how these untested kits allow a serial rapist to continue committing crimes.
If we were able to test these kits quicker and get these repeat offenders off the streets, you would see that number coming down because the rapists would be behind bars.
In a statement, Representative Nancy Bass says the mandating and reporting of inventories and tracking the data from rape kits perpetrators can more quickly be brought to justice. Well, the great minds from this generation showing off their skills at an AI skills showcase. Just ahead, how these Georgia Tech students see the future of technology.
First Alert Radar, powered by Jim Hudson Lexus Acura Cadillac.
It's happening right now at Rooms to Go.
In Atlanta, Avon South at Georgia Tech just held a showcase of the best of technology, innovation, and creativity of its students. As Joshua Skinner shows us, when it comes to AI, this next generation is thinking outside the box.
Jerry Chen is a PhD student at Georgia Tech.
I am a big nerd.
And painting is not his passion.
I just love math, science, engineering.
So he made a robot that will paint for him.
What we're trying to study with this test platform is understanding how to translate human motions onto a robot.
Chen is one of numerous Georgia Tech geniuses participating in Avant South, an event designed to showcase advances in science, in this case, artificial intelligence. The setup here takes human input,
Just right?
and recreates it on the canvas. And the applications here are just coating the surface.
Painting, but also things like ballet or parkour really represent the pinnacle of what humans are capable of.
Speaking of dance,
This is Lumini. It's an interactive art installation.
it's personal for research scientist and former ballerina Milka Trekova.
How do we induce a data-driven way to optimize training for dance?
In this case, by using cameras to track and replicate human movement.
I think it's a very unique way to generate new type of movement, really co-create with you, and that's really the aim of this work.
And while we're on AIM, this robot can play tennis.
Kind of thing is that like a child that's starting to play tennis is like I am 6-7-year-old.
All of these AI applications are works in progress, but is it only a matter of time before these machines learn they don't need us?
Will robots take over the world? Yes, they will, but they will as our children.
And if they work as our children, who better to parent them than the next generation of geniuses?
Robotics is just such a beautiful marriage between all of these different fields of engineering.
In Midtown, Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First.
And we all might be in trouble very, very soon with this tech. And speaking of tech, a Georgia Tech student named Dalton Ludke, who you can see on the right, just helped NASA design a new miniature-scale rocket engine during a summer internship. That's light work during an internship there. That engine produces more power and uses less fuel than current propulsion systems. So Georgia Tech doing some crazy stuff with AI and some other technology down there, Riley.
Oh yeah, Georgia Tech doing some Georgia Tech things, and always cool to see what they produce. And we do have the Hispanic Festival starting tonight. That's going to continue tomorrow from 5 o'clock until 11. Should be great weather out there for you. Well, I'm going to look at that 7-day forecast just after the break.
It's Ram Power Days in Waynesboro.
Up to $4 grand off new Charger GTs and Challenger GTs.
2.9% financing available.
New Waynesboro Rams up to $10,000 off. Visit goodtogowaynesboro.com.
I'm Mike Hostel.
Cheap Adventure Days in Waynesboro means big discounts. Over $6,500 off new Jeep Gladiator Rubicons.
Choose the exact vehicle you want, and we'll deliver it within 500 miles.
Goodtogowaynesboro.com.
Well, could this be the future of grocery stores? An Atlanta area nonprofit just granted $600,000 to help create 2 pint-sized grocery stores made out of shipping containers. Now, the goal is to make fresh food more accessible in Southwest Atlanta, and renderings show the stores could have a mix of fresh, frozen, and pantry items, and could even make a rooftop cafe area. The first 2 mini stores will be placed near 2 neighborhoods. So more tech coming your way, trying to solve the crisis of food in many areas. I'm sure we could use something like that here as well, Riley.
Absolutely. Definitely try to recycle those shipping containers. And Atlanta obviously has a direct pathway to those shipping containers with Savannah, Brunswick, Charleston, those ports very close by. So hopefully we can start recycling some of those because there's a ton of them. Looking back out of our dam cam, one of these afternoons we're actually going to see somebody catch a fish from fishing here near the dam. So we'll hold here for a second. But we got beautiful conditions up at the lake. Temperature is definitely warmer today. We're actually hitting highs in the 80s this afternoon and finally seeing the sun again. It's been a fairly cloudy outlook the past couple of days, but much nicer weather out there this afternoon. 84 in Thompson, 81 in Aiken, mid-80s for most spots south of Augusta, so just a beautiful afternoon for most spots. We are going to stay nice this evening. If you're heading out to those high school football games, you may want to grab a jacket. Overnight temperatures will be dropping down close to 60 by daybreak tomorrow morning, and we're going to stay with nice weather through the weekend and potentially getting even cooler heading into next week.
All right, thanks, Riley. Stick with us. We have more news, weather, and sports coming up after a short break as News 12 Live at 5 continues. That includes our Under the Lights coverage.